I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world. And yet I ask you, is not an alien force already among us?
From the gates of Mount Rome to the far corners of the endless highway, wherever you are, welcome to the show.
So you believe in some kind of Armageddon?
Yeah, most definitely. We in the last times and days right now. The Illuminati's in effect.
My guest today is author, researcher, curator of the Spiritual Shaderoom Instagram, and host of the Ani Osaru YouTube channel. Ani, thanks for coming on, man.
Appreciate you, Tim. It is a pleasure to be on the 6th Century podcast and to share information with you guys today.
Yeah. Tell everyone anything I missed there or anything you want about your background.
Sure. I'm what you would call a metaphysicist. I study spirituality. I'm also developing a term that I learned from a couple of books because I think it's important for us to coin new terms with this bastardized language we call it English. But a somatoneticist is also what I like to call it as well, uncovering magical radiation. And that doesn't mean, Aleister Crowley magical type stuff. It could mean me reading a book and me feeling a sensation, or watching a YouTube video when you feel a sensation when someone's saying something. That's what you would call a magical radiation. So I'm trying to study that side of it. So it's called somatonetics. So I would say that's what I'm, venturing into right now to understand better. And I've researched it for years, but I just came across this term recently in a occult hyperchemistry book by Carl Stone. But I just been a spiritual counselor. I studied occultism, esotericism, Gnosticism, all of these different things for years. Been counseling people for about 10 years, podcasting for about 7. So yeah, I'm kind of like old at this point doing this stuff, but you got to find ways to reinvent yourself, reinvigorate your crowd, find different discussions. A lot of people like me decoding things, so I get called a decoder as well because I'm good with the gematria and numerology, some astrology on the Vedic side, and figuring out some things of what's happening in the celebrity realm. So that's where I coined the Spiritual Shade Room, about speaking on celebrities, politicians, public figures, and showing the day-to-day ritual connections that the mainstream news presents about these different people. So that's pretty much what I do.
Yeah, I really want to come back to some of the stuff you mentioned there. I'd love to come back to that celebrity realm, but I just want to touch on, you said you've been around for a while, and you have. I know I've seen you, like I told you before, on shows in the past, but I had to ask you this because I do think it's important. Did you have a YouTube channel taken down? Were you censored?
Yes, I was censored, and it was for different reasons. Of course, you got the C word. I think that played a little bit into it, but what they were giving me was more that I was probably bullying. I don't know how I was bullying, but I do know presenting information from the Black occult community, they can deem some things Afrocentric. So if I say melanin is this and that, and I don't clarify certain things, and then I say something about a other racial group, which isn't demeaning, but it's probably a skewed topic that people don't want to speak about. You'll get a bunch of people that come in and say, I don't agree with that, and they'll pile on you and they'll say, oh, that's bullying,
Okay.
but I see it go on everywhere else. But it is what it is. I learned from it, and I did a new channel, and we stick to the basis of what I call hyperlucidity, which is covering a lot of the celebrity public figure type things, or politician, public figure type things that's making news, like the drones, stuff
Right.
like that. I got into ufology. I've been in ufology for a while, but I got more concentrated in it, doing lectures for a guy named Dave Rossi. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him, but he's cracked the code of free energy. He's going viral with a Dr. Salvatore or something like that. You guys can look them up.
What's
They're
his last name?
Rossi,
Okay.
Dave Rossi. His it's called Generation Z.
All
Is the
right.
name of his podcast. I've done many lectures for over 2 or 3 years for him, and uncovering some of the ufology mystery. He's real deep into the physics, man. Like I haven't
Mm-hmm.
heard anyone who can break down the physics of ufology, dimensionality, things of the aspects, the Z pinch plane, ether. He's prime. The military people are hitting him up. So
Okay.
I give a big shout out to him and giving me a platform, because he believes in my work and I believe in his work. So that's another angle I took on the channel for a little bit. So I've just been around a lot of
Yeah.
different topics,
I
in the air.
wanna, yeah, man. I want to check out. I want to hear where he's coming from with free energy,
Mhm.
because that's something that I'm very intrigued by. It's something that I think throughout history, kind of leading up to the timeline we're on, people have stumbled across different means of obtaining that. And I think it just like if you look at Tesla, for instance, it seems like he stumbled across a method to do that too, and it got shut down for profits. Because if I'm getting the story correct, I think Edison got the contract and they didn't give it to Tesla, and they ended up putting up Paraline poles and doing energy differently away so they could get people monthly paying for it.
Yep.
If we would have went with Tesla, from what I understand, it seems like it would have all just been free. You wouldn't have an electric bill every month.
That's the thing about it. That's why they had to take them out. I
Yeah.
mean, let's be clear. The free energy aspect has been cracked plenty of times, even before Tesla. Tesla was studying this other guy. I forgot his name, but he developed that other periodic table that Terrence Howard was talking about on Joe Rogan's show. Tesla was studying him, so he cracked it as well. But in other ancient civilizations, you hear about the Tartarian Empire. You ever heard of Tartarian?
Yes.
That there's some proof that maybe
Hey, it's
two,
it's on a map. I found it on old maps. It's right up
yes, on old maps.
it's up in northwestern Russia.
Or Crimea,
Hmm.
or however you pronounce that, used to be. So yeah, it's definitely a thing, and Dave has cracked it again. He can teach you how to turn your air conditioner into a free energy device. He's teaching people all over the country how to do this. So they figured out the secret of it. They got all of the information, especially being in 2025. They have even more information, probably. I'm not saying they have more than Tesla, but they have a lot of different angles to go at it. And I think that's what every civilization was trying to accomplish, free energy. And now the people that, the powers that be that run things now, they know about it and they don't want us discovering it. So they're dogpiling on things to keep us away from the secrets of understanding how ether works in plasma. Plasma is probably not only, it's not the fifth form of matter, or the fifth or fourth form of matter, is the first form of matter. So 99% of the universe is plasma. We're the 1% that's not plasma. So we have to understand that when they're talking about beings from other dimensions penetrating this realm, coming into this realm, they're probably studying the way that we exude energy out of our physical shells in nature and how we experience it versus them how they experience it. We're probably very interesting, so that's why we're having a lot of visitors.
Yeah, yeah. You know, you were talking about ufology, and I wasn't expecting to talk with you about that at all today, but because I didn't know you looked into it. That's cool that
Yeah,
you
all
got your
of it,
foot in
all of it,
that.
man. Let's talk about all of it.
Yeah, let's talk about all of it. So, but with ufology, so right before I started this podcast, and I won't regale everyone with the story because I've told it 100 times, but I had a UFO sighting, and that really influenced how I kicked this podcast off. Like I did my first 8, 9, maybe 10 episodes on UFOs. So I delved into that research really hard. But what I kept coming back to is this free energy thing. Because once you get real deep into ufology, you find yourself at the doors of free energy and crazy physics and ether and all that great stuff that you're talking about, man. And I came across this guy, George Van Tassel. He so Tesla dies in 43. Van Tassel kind of emerges in 1947 when he moves out to the Mojave Desert. He leaves a job at Lockheed and he builds this thing called the Integratron. And it's still
Mm,
there today. They call it like a time machine and stuff. But all these like Tesla, T. Townsend Brown type guys have gone out there and done experiments with electricity and ether. And it's just a story came to mind when I was listening to you talk there because you talked about, you know, the entities finding us interesting, entities kind of maybe coming into this realm. This guy was out there doing an experiment at George Van Tassel's Integratron, and he's doing this Tesla-like thing. I heard him talk about it on a podcast, and it's real dense. So I don't know exactly what he did, but he had electricity coming in, and he somehow they got a little energy of or an entity of light, like a lightning man, like a little light
hmm
being showed up in the middle of the room, and it freaked them all out because they're like stone cold scientists that don't believe in any of that kind of stuff.
Right.
But they're do I just thought it was crazy, man, that these guys are doing these experiments and they're tapping into some other kind of realm, it seems like.
Yeah, and it's been a lot of experiments like that. A lot of things going on behind scenes that I probably can't even mention on YouTube that Dave has expressed that's been happening and is being talked about a lot now, more than ever, you know. So I really believe the disclosure whole thing is a hoax. Whenever they come, they have like a pattern of when they come and tell us, oh, we're going to disclose some things to you guys, and we end up getting little pieces of details. Um, I brought on Alan H. Greenfield like 2 weeks ago. He's one of the top ufologists, one of the first ufologists actually going way, way back. I don't even know. I asked him how far back.
I've read his book.
It, oh, you did? The
I,
Secret Ciphers.
yep,
Yeah.
I read Secret Cipher, man. And I'm gonna let you keep going with it, but I'll just say this, like it really affected it opened doors up.
Really?
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
for me it did, yeah.
Yeah, he was ostracized a little bit because he was trying to say that the magic is attached to it,
Hmm.
you know, and they don't, scientists or academia don't want to attach the magical aspect. I mean, the first time you see a bug alien, it was the lamb figure that Aleister Crowley drew. And I try to express to people that that created an egregore. And an egregore is an astral collective group conscious, a thought form that can be born in the astral plane by a group of people. They do this with religions. You know, if I tell you something and you formulate a thought in a mental picture about what I'm saying to you, and then you tell somebody, they tell somebody, and then collectively y'all come together and y'all do ritual some type of ceremony together on a regular basis, then that thing becomes real in the astral plane. So I propose the theory that we created the grays, not that there's some type of, because there's a lot of theories. There's another guy, um, what is his name? He wrote the Prometheus Rising book, I believe. He's saying that these things are evolved humans that came from a breakaway civilization and have traveled back in time, and they're here somewhere beyond the ice wall somewhere, and they're have surveillance on us, or they're trying to give a message to us, whether there's good or bad ones, so you can go anywhere in the woo, area of trying to understand it. But I really subscribe to the theory that we probably created an egregore, and these things have become real through the astral plane, and we are more powerful in our thought forms of how we create them more than we would ever know. And that's what they're studying, the propagation of what the daimon is in quantum physics, called eidolons and daimons. Another guy wrote a book about it called named Anthony Peake. You ever heard of Anthony Peake?
Uh,
Yeah, he's been on a lot of podcasts. He wrote a book called Damon.
mhm.
So I would suggest some of your listeners get his book, Anthony Peake Damon, and that goes into the ufology whole thing as well. He's breaking a lot of intelligence and understanding that. But yeah, the magic is connected, and until we understand that, we're going to be in the dark with a lot of things.
Yeah, I think that there's magic involved, and I think I like your theory about the egregore, and I think that's very possible. And also, it's possible too that maybe we opened the doorway if
Yeah.
they're and let them in. If they were already there, we definitely opened the doorway. I see that with Jack Parsons in the Babylon Working.
Yeah.
And let's,
Yeah.
we talk about that word. You mentioned something to me earlier
Mhm.
before we started recording about the homunculus. A lot of people think that he was doing some sort of a moonchild, some sort of a homunculus thing out there, and maybe because he was basing his magic off of some of Aleister Crowley's stuff. But I looked into that Babylon Working, and I think that he was opening a doorway for Ishtar or Ashtar personally in my research, the old Sumerian deity, just because
Yeah.
I think she's the goddess Babylon and all that. But he may have been doing both. Who knows?
Yeah. The Moonchild thing is at the top of my research right now. Could Jack Parsons, could he have figured out a magical formula based on Crawley's books on how to birth a etherical being or a extra dimensional or infra dimensional being inside of you, inside of a person, just like you carry a child? What if you can carry a etherical being and it be born into the world through a ritual working? And they were trying to actually birth the Antichrist, him and Cameron, what's her name is?
Marjorie Cameron.
Marjorie, yeah. They
Yeah.
were trying to bring the Antichrist in the realm, quote unquote. But I think they have a lot of these Babylon Project women to birth certain beings at a certain time. So later on, 30, 20, whatever years, these people become big time public figures, celebrities, and they get used for magical rites and conditioning the mainstream and our beliefs. Like I believe Elon Musk could be a moonchild. They found a book of this other guy. What is his name? His name always slips my mind when I try to talk about it, but I think
He might definitely be a cultural moonchild for sure.
yeah, I can't remember the guys, but a guy wrote a book about Mars and literally said a guy
Oh
named
yeah.
Elon was gonna
Von Braun. Yeah.
Von Braun, Warner Von Braun. I always forget his name. I don't know
Man,
why.
that's crazy about that book. Yeah.
It's a moonchild. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. I mean, that was way before he was born. And if you see his mother, have you ever seen pictures of his mother?
Yeah, yeah. She gets into her witchy side for sure.
So it could be she was doing some type of Babylon working. I mean, you never know. There's some funny history with his grandfather too.
I didn't know about his grandfather. I think they came out of South Africa, didn't they? Some sort of.
They came to South Africa from Canada because they were chased out of Germany for certain reasons.
Oh my God. It always goes back to Germany, man, on this
Yeah.
show.
Yeah.
Always. There's
Well,
a Nazi behind every corner, man. I'm telling you.
yeah, well, they found free energy. I believe the mustache person. I mean, he
Yep.
did some crazy stuff, but I think he was trying to find free energy, or he was at least being used to a certain extent of assimilating some type of order to he was into magic as well. There's a lot of magic mysticism, the Thule Society or
Hmm.
something like that. They got the
Hmm.
Thule Society, and they
That
were
was all about magic, man. And like, just to touch on the free energy part, man, I think that they were possibly, maybe they did find it. They, from what I understand, they invited T. Townsend Brown out to Germany.
Mhm.
He was getting, I think he was in Canada, and they didn't want to work with him, and so he went over to Germany. And I think they sent him back eventually, but they worked with him for a little bit. So they probably figured out some stuff via him. And then they had this guy, Hans Kammler, who was
Mhm.
working over there in Poland during the war. They took Poland and they put in a super facility under Kasai's castle. He's working in these tunnels underground. He's working on the German secret weapons project, whatever, whatever that means. That's where you get your these legends of the Nazi Bell.
Yeah,
Because apparently, I mean, I don't think that thing was a full blown UFO. I think that they were figuring out how to levitate items, though,
yeah, the
or objects.
Glock,
Yeah, yes,
Glock. They were studying the toroidal field. You know, they
that's
was
it.
looking into the toroidal field. Oh, why can't I remember that guy's name? He wrote the book Prometheus Rising. He'd be on. I think he was on Joe Rogan. Or I think it was on Danny Jones. But he was going into some of that research. But yeah, they even when you look into Vimanas, you ever looked at a Vimana before?
Yeah, in the Vedas. Robert Anton Wilson, is that
No. Jason Giorgiani.
okay? Okay. Uh,
Jason Reza Giorgiani, yeah.
but yeah, I think the Vimanas is very telling. I think that what I get from the Vimanas is that there was an ancient civilization or many ancient civilizations who had their hands on all of this knowledge, free energy, flight. I mean, the blueprints for how to make a flying device are laid out in the Veda texts.
They are. And if you look at your $1 bill, crazy stuff. The I on the $1 bill is actually a Vimana. Like I can show you, it's called syncretism. When I can show you the connections, they think that's a pyramid. I mean, it is a pyramid, but they also hide certain esoteric knowledge behind certain symbolism. But they're also showing you that they discovered the Vimana, the technology of the Vimana, if you really look at it. I wish I could show you that.
Hey, man, I mean, I believe it that the Nazis may have stumbled on that too, because there's that lost city of Lhasa in Tibet.
Hmm.
It's like a fortified, it looks almost like a castle, but it's like a fortified monastery where they've had a library there for who knows how long, centuries, and they've got all these Veda texts in there. The Nazis sent a team in there for a
Hmm.
couple weeks. I think they were poking around looking in those texts, trying to find out, secret weaponry or secret or ancient, I should say, ancient, forms of technology. I think that's what they were looking for.
I believe so too, and I think they found it.
Hmm.
Uh, and that's why they got so deep into it. You know, they were actually trying to create the Ubermensch, produce the Ubermensch, but they also were still firm in their cultural beliefs. So they were doing syncretism with the Vedic beliefs into the Germanic beliefs. Everything about our society revolves around the German findings esoterically. You know, every day of the week, Sunday comes from synagogue, Monday is Moonagod, Tuesday is Tears Day. That's the German god of war. Wednesday is Woden's Day. Woden becomes Odin, the one-eyed god. Thursday, you already know that's Thor's day, and Friday is the mother Freya. So all of in our language, God is a Germanic term. I don't know why people don't get that. The word God means a German deity. When you research Gott, it comes from Gott. Is literally comes from German, and in every every civilization or every nation today started off with some type of German monarchy. Queen Elizabeth had to change her name. She's German.
German, you know.
She's actually German. But if you go through history, you will find a German monarch. I mean, shoot, look at Trump right now. He's from Karlstadt.
Is that Germany?
Yes,
I didn't know
yes, Trump
that.
is German. Yeah.
I mean, he kind
His
of looks
his
like it.
name his name wasn't Trump. His name was Drumpf. Drumpf. They
Yeah,
changed his
yeah.
name from
They
Trump.
Americanized it.
They,
Ellis
they,
Isle
they
probably or something like that.
Operation Paperclip. They
Hmm.
did the same thing with the scientists. You know, they changed
Yep,
all
yep.
of their name. Well, a lot of their names. They kept some of the names, but even George Bush family, they changed their names. You know, so
Yeah, I knew that royal family was German, and I think what happened was I think once Hitler came on the scene, uh, they they were so embarrassed by all that they didn't want to be German anymore. I think that's what happened because if you go back not too long ago, it was known that they're German. Now it's not really out there like that.
right. Right. They were I mean, one of the big things for elitism is to hide your bloodline.
Mhm.
You know, to stay elite, you hide your bloodlines. So they give us all of these names. There's another guy that wrote a book on all of that. I forgot his name too, but he wrote a book on how they like to hide their bloodlines. They find names to hide it. So
I
yeah.
think I do think the common thread for me so far in this conversation is still the ancient civilizations. I think all this, even the God Kings, they trace their
Mhm.
bloodline back to the God Kings, whether that's you want to call that Anunnaki or whatever. Uh,
Mhm.
in the Sumerians, it goes back to these people who came to Earth and something happened. We had some sort of interaction with them. But anyways, it all goes back to like an older civilization. And like I had on Mario from Symbolic Studies. We did a roundtable with him,
Love
and he was
Mario.
he's talking about all this northern symbolism and stuff. And it seems like when I was studying the Nazis too, it seems like that all goes back to this ancient civilization of the north, like Hyperborea, like an Atlantean like civilization. That
Yeah.
maybe I don't know. What do you think about all that?
Uh Polar stellar symbolism
Mm.
and it's esoteric. The Atlanteans, if you ask me, they were a esoteric civilization. I don't know if they actually physically existed because we don't have no evidence of that. I mean, nobody ever found that. I mean, there's some Greek texts where was it Socrates or somebody wrote about some island named Atlantis or something like that's the first time we started to see it. But in Egyptians, they talked about a time before Narmer, the first pharaoh, where some gods ruled. They asked who ruled before you guys. He said that's when a bunch of gods ruled. So the polar symbolism is speaking about the northern pole region, where everything revolves around that region, constellationally wise. Like everything revolves around this center point of constellations, and they believe that that's where the God consciousness comes from. So they did a comparative, a dyadic symbolism underneath the earth, the hollow earth, and did a reflection with the black sun, saying there's something similar going on up there, down up under the earth, and there's portals up under, the earth or in the earth. That's why most of the work is done in tunnels. You'll see tunnels and caves in Romania. These are symbolizing the womb space for the portals. And they believe that they were in contact. Even Alan H. Greenfield wrote about it in his Black Lodge book. Crazy stuff in that book, by the way. Um, he says that there were classes actually taught by these beings telepathically, in the Romanian caves, and someone had to stay behind per class, almost like a sacrifice, which is very prototypical in ancient civilizations. They were into the sacrifice type thing. They probably didn't look at it that way as, a symbol. It's a exchange of energy. There has to be a quotient in the formula. I mean, there has to be a balance to the equation of the formula. So, yeah, the northern The polar symbolism Mario goes into is very, very accurate. I believe we're too much in the sun and the moon stuff. We need to look beyond that. And the older you go in civilizations, the more the northern pole region comes up more and more.
Yeah.
Draco, Great Bear, the draconian thing. You guys got to watch my video called The Reptilian Myth because it's so funny how people get wrapped up in that. And I love David Icke and his information. And I love what's the other guy he talked about? I can't remember his name. There's another guy who talks about reptilians too. But even that is esoteric. The reptilians come from draconian. In the words draconian came from the Draco constellation. They were naming a group of people who worship the Draco constellation. They were called draconians. Also Typhonians. Typhonians and draconians were the same people. And they worship a god named Set. So you get the Sethians, and you get Set, and that later becomes Satan. So you have the reptilians taking on this religion moniker of being a satanic figure to the whole earth. Or we are the divine beings, and they're reptilians, they're the demonic beings, and we don't know, we're at war with these reptilians, and they can shapeshift and turn into people. Now there is lycanthropic magical mysteries. You'll hear in Africa, some people can change into shit in the forest. They can do stuff like that's real, Mortal Kombat type stuff. But I don't really believe or subscribe because David Icke learned a lot of that from Credo Mutwa. I think that there's counterfeit spirits and they are amongst us. They talk about it in the Gnostic text where there was a split between the divine sparks. That's the people, that's into high information, more, information that doesn't reside, or people of regular normal society wouldn't probably look at it. Then you have the counterfeits. That's what you call NPCs or dead people. They just go with the flow, whatever the government tells them. They don't believe a thing that we'll tell them. They spoke about these things. Could that be a reference to what they're speaking about, draconians, reptilians? I really think so. I think that they're speaking about the same counterfeit spirits, and I could go deeper in depth about it. But I do believe the more and more we dig deeper into the information, people kind of become disconnected when you can't make the connections. You just say something that's been regurgitated over and over. Yo, there's reptilian. Then they start to make fun of it,
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a reptilian.
Yeah, you've got aliens, and then some people have, like David Icke, it seems like maybe he jumped into reptilians. I'm not sure how that went for him, but like what I'm seeing now, and I think, the more and more this disclosure rolls out, I think what we're going to see is this battle of are they coming from space, like the Draconian? Are they reptilians coming from space, or are they like that Harvard document that just came out? Are they crypto terrestrial? Are they coming from out of the earth?
Right, right.
And that's going to be, I think, a point of contention. And like, because I see a lot of flat earth. I see a lot of people out there who don't believe in space at all.
Yeah.
So that's, and I've talked to people like that who think that there are some sort of other entities, but they're coming up out of the earth. So I'm interested to see how that plays out. It's like, are we talking about crypto terrestrials? Are we talking about something from space? Or are we talking about something maybe even from another dimension?
Could be both.
Could be both. I think so.
I think that there are definitely things in the earth or coming out of the earth. I think that earth is like a revolving door to the universe, a open space for beings to come here. I think it's probably more than likely a large portal for the universe. I think every person is a portal, a walking portal, because things can come into you. You know, you've heard of possession before. Things can take over us. So we ourselves, we have a toroidal field around us. The earth has a toroidal field. So we're portals. And that's why there's such a misunderstanding, because beings are coming in and out of here. But everything isn't always literal. There needs to be a intricacy of understanding the process. It can't be cut and dry that just because someone had a vision of a reptilian and they believe cut and dry, they saw the reptilian or the gray, that's what we're going to go off. Like I said, egregores. You may have very much seen it, but it was created through the astral plane of us conditioning our minds that way. Because some people will tell you they saw Jesus, or they see God, or they see Satan. And another person will tell you, well, God and Satan doesn't even look like that. But we all agree these things are potentialities. They either exist or people believe that they don't. So because we have a overall disagreement on these things, then we have to be careful. And I think it's great for us to continue to research so we can develop the intricacies and we can dispel some of it and we can conceptualize it into a way where even a layman can understand, you know, what's actually happening with this disclosure, what's being unveiled, and what's happening here.
Yeah, and I think too, like just the human potential to change our environment and maybe even stuff in another dimension.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there is that potential. I think it's probably just been lost. You know, I mean, we are talking about magic, like we're kind of like magical creatures ourselves. We've just gotten out of touch, in my opinion, with the spiritual realm. That's why I named my podcast what I did, is because I think that at one point we had more than five senses for sure, and we were able to do different things. And you know, I was having this conversation with a guy at work the other night, and I'm not going to say exactly what I do and give out names, but like basically it's an event space, and I basically do like a security kind of thing there. And when that place fills up for an event, I mean, it fills up. We're talking about hundreds of people in there. And this guy I work with was there. He's working, and he hadn't made contact with this person, but this person kind of called him over and was like, "Hey, man, I just want you to know." This is what this guy said to my friend. He's like, "I just want you to know you're a genuine person.
Mm.
You're a genuine person, but you're tired, aren't you? Even when you get sleep, you're tired." And he's like, "Yeah." And this guy read him like a book. And my friend was going through a real hard time, but he didn't necessarily show it because he's at work. You know, he's in work mode. But anyways, that whole exchange between these two people ended up with this guy saying, what did he say? He said, "You're a genuine person and you're almost complete."
Mm.
That's how that conversation. So he's my friend now. He's thinking about this weird thing. He told me this weekend, by the way, and
Mm.
so I had the night before he told me this story. I was cooking and I was listening to your YouTube channel because I knew you were going to come on the show.
Yes.
And after he tells me this story, I remember something you said in your YouTube channel, because we're
Mm.
sitting there, we're trying to figure out what did this guy mean by "you're almost complete." And I was like, "Have you ever heard the theory that maybe we get multiple souls throughout our lifetime?"
Yes.
And you know, I'm not going to break this down as eloquently as you did, but this is what I told him. I was like, you know, the idea is that you get a soul when you're born, as soon as you come out and you take your first breath. Then later you get a soul during puberty, your second soul. And then
Mhm.
maybe I guess you get your third soul sometime around, I don't know, late 20s. And then most people don't progress from there. And it seems like the people who do get really spiritual, for lack of a better term, or even become monastic or something like that. It seems like you have to aggressively go after and like activate those other fourth, fifth souls I was like, what if that's what he meant by you're almost complete? Maybe you're about to get another soul. You know, I was just throwing it out there,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I don't know. I had to throw that in today just because it's your work, and I had never heard that concept before.
yeah. That's good, Tim. That's real good that you did that to try to help them understand. Yeah, I mean, it's not my concept. It comes from Typhonianism. Before these are the people who taught the Egyptians. You will ask, who taught the Egyptians how to draw those hieroglyphs? There were civilizations before them, and they talked about the Sekveth, the seven soul concept, like how I explained it. Like at birth, you acquire a soul. Um, like how you said it, puberty, because you're able now to create a soul, you know, via sex, you now acquire another soul because you can create. Then your adulthood, you gain the intellectual soul. Because if you had a debate between a 21-year-old and a 13-year-old who just went into puberty, that 21-year-old has seen enough where they would run circles around this person in a debate intellectually because they've seen 10 plus more years of the cycle, the patterns of what this world and the spiritual world has to offer. Not to say that there isn't no bright 12 or 13-year-old that could give a 21-year-old a run, but we're talking about, overall numbers. And then there's these other souls after that, these four souls, and that deals with what you're saying, the spiritual aspect. Funny you named it Six Sensory Podcast because these are what the six senses are entailing. Being able to actually see spirit sight. Some people are born with the gift of spirit sight, and some people develop, a gift of spirit sight later on. The planets have to be right to open up certain chakras or nadis, spiritual cells in the body, to have a person open a certain multi-dimensional consciousness, which I'm very big upon in understanding, is the multiverse aspect to spirituality. Um, so spirit sight, clairaudience, hearing, spiritual practice is very, very crucial to how you hear things. The cochlea muscle or something like that. It's one of the most spiritual organs you have in your body. How can you hear things? And hearing tonalities is how creativity is produced, how you hear things. So that's another one. And some people have this divination gift. They can see mentally into the future, see things unfold. You'll see some people that said, I had a dream about this and that with you, and it may come true. Maybe not then, but years or days down the line. So these things are extra souls that aren't given to everyone. Most of everyone go through 1 through 3, and I agree. Some people speak on things that they probably don't have the full totality of knowledge on, but that's why it's great we're in this Aquarian information age because we can kind of draw in, not to say we have the full picture, but we can draw in a little bit and try to uncover some of these things some people may mean. And they probably would tell you that's not what I meant, but that's interesting. But it's good. That's why esoteric and knowledge of spirituality and this type of science is very critical right now because we should be advancing in talking about this subject. We shouldn't be stuck in areas that we were 10, 20 years ago. We should have a conventional, all the way perspective as a society to understand what's happening with the unseen. And I think podcasts like this is great for people to increase their intelligence in that matter.
Yeah, yeah, man, and I'm listening. We're talking about the whole spiritual aspect of this, and sometimes I jump right into things, and I just assume everybody knows what I'm talking about. But like, I don't even think I brought this out with that story I told you.
Mm.
There was a whole supernatural aura to that thing. That's why we went spiritual with it, because I just forgot to mention this part, but we were actually, because this person was so enigmatic that we were wondering if it was some sort of an encounter with something unhuman, because because
Mm.
so I just wanted to throw that in because I feel like I skipped that part, and you knew what I was talking about. But like, the whole reason we went deep is because that whole situation was like supernatural in and of itself. But
Yeah.
yeah, I love that planetary aspect to this that you mentioned. I mean, I see it in the old alchemical texts.
Yeah.
Those guys were taking into account where the planets were going to be before they would do alchemy and stuff. And like I just did a whole big thing on CERN. Like, I just new research on CERN. I dove into some stuff, and along the way, I came across some scholars who had some things to say about CERN. And one of the scholars was talking about how he believed that this was a uh, a place of ley lines,
Hmm.
and because when they built CERN, when they were digging to put in the collider or whatever, they came across an old Roman temple to Apollo, like an old pagan site, and the scholar was thinking that there was a shaman like character that was doing work out of that place and using the ley lines, and maybe even using the constellations too in junction with each
Yeah.
other.
Yeah. The ley lines were developed by the British Empire. And we know John Dee, he was quintessential. I forgot what century he was in, but what he brought to the fold with the Enochian,
Hmm.
magic, that was very influential. So they created the ley line system based on the planetary transits above in the heavens. So every ley line is what you called a dragon path. And a dragon path is pretty much like a Kundalini portal or chakra in the planet. So just like we have many chakras, it's not seven chakras, it's seven main chakras. There's thousands of chakras throughout the body. Same thing with the earth. There's these main chakras, and then there's these other chakras that line up constellationally, with these planetary frequencies that can influence consciousness. So when they were probably mapping out where they was going to put this machine to study the quantum realm, they wanted to make sure it aligned with what type of frequency they were about to bring, in existence with that. So I'm not surprised. I've heard of that before. And let's be clear, that's not the only CERN laboratory.
Right.
That's probably the first one, maybe,
Hmm.
maybe, or what they told us. But there was a Harvard article that came out. I can't find it now. It's on my old Facebook. I found it, and they believe that there was some CERN laboratory near Harvard because some student, I guess he was a whistleblower, was speaking about something that they discovered as like CERN and what CERN does and smashing particle, whatever the machine, the Hadron Collider, and maybe it was a mini, smaller version. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, they do have some of those on college campuses. Vanderbilt in Nashville has one
Oh,
underground.
okay.
But yeah, there were other bigger operations like CERN. There's one out in California called SLAC, SLAC. What's
Hmm.
interesting is CERN, I think in 98, released the World Wide Web. They rolled out the internet first from there. They had a scientist there named Tim Berners-Lee who developed www and HTTP and all that. They rolled out of CERN first. A couple years later, Slack rolls out the internet over here in the States.
Hmm.
So the
Like,
people who have
okay.
the particle colliders are rolled out the internet first. I thought that was crazy. So all this stuff is interconnected. I mean,
Yeah.
and this goes back to, what we've been talking about too with entities too. I mean, like, um, there's a scientist over there, Stuckelberger, Astrid Stuckelberger, I think is her name. She went to the University of Geneva, and of course CERN's right there in Geneva. She kind of came out and blew the whistle. She was having dinner with some of these CERN scientists, and they were telling her all about how something was coming through a portal down in the basement. Like they opened up some sort of I don't know, some sort of a doorway, and something came through, and it's happened multiple times. And she even said that one of the times the entity left an article of clothing, or what we would perceive to be clothing, some sort of something like a scarf. So all this kind of, it all kind of, I don't know, works together. Now, with your theory, did we create that entity? You know, that's a possibility. I want that on the table.
It could be. I mean, it could, because consciousness is a field.
Hmm.
So you have a collective field of consciousness in that space of quantum happenings. I don't know the exact direct quantum physics term, but you got quantum happenings. You're smashing particles, you're doing all of these type things. But we ourselves are fields of consciousness, or we're within the field of consciousness as well. And you have all of those people in that area, whatever's going through the levels of the astral plane within us and our chakras, things can be filtered in and out between our field of consciousness to what CERN is doing in its field. So we could have created that could have came, because I believe that we are our own universe inwardly, or we're our own observer of the universe, meaning that there could be one total universe through our collective as a people, not that it's separate, that the universe is separate from us, because how I see the universe may be different than how you see it. Everyone sees things differently. You can ask a person and say, "Did you see that?" They'll tell you, "No, I don't know. I wasn't looking," and they talk about the double slit experiment. If you didn't look, then it probably didn't even exist, you know. Same thing with the tree that fell down in the forest. Does
Oh yeah.
anybody know that it fell? Same
Mhm.
as double slit experiment type thing. But that means that what we're observing to ourself could be the actual effect of the electrons being revealing, unveiling what we're seeing. So yeah, your what you were saying definitely connects to what I'm saying. It's a possibility that could have came from one of the spectrum of the dimensionality of the person, of how they were observing things inwardly. So we
Like
have to become consciously of it.
I'm thinking about like a life begets life kind of a angle with this. And I'm just,
Yeah.
I'm just talking on the fly. This is just something I'm thinking about based on what you're saying. But like, kind of reminds me of like a Rick and Morty episode where Rick, where Rick, like, somehow he manages to create a universe in a small universe in like a
Very
petri dish,
esoteric. Hmm.
you know? And it's like, yeah, yeah, it's very esoteric. And it's like, what if we create what if we create some sort of a small universe with entities? I don't know. I mean, it's
We
just
are every decision. They already studied this, bro. With every decision that we make, we create a universe where we made the opposite decision. That's multiverse theory, many world theory, they call it. They've already studied this. So we are creating everything that we do. There is a dimension or a realm where we didn't do this podcast. The email didn't make it, Tim.
yep, yep.
And I went and scratched my ass somewhere. I don't
Yeah.
know. So these things are very much put in detail in physics, that the multiverse is real. Now, I am big in opening people to the dream aspect, the dream physics. I told Juan, I had a show with Juan before, where out there between the Draco and the Boötes constellation, scientists discovered this cold spot. they're not talking about the cold spot so much anymore, but it was real big in like 2017. Probably it was around 2011 and 2017. So this cold spot opened up, and all of these scientists were observing it and saying, this is something big. We don't know what this is. Basically, when the Mayans said that the world would end, that could have been a quasi potential type thing of happenings. It didn't mean literally the world ended, but it could have been multiversal. Some worlds ended, or it could have meant that we were able to look into other worlds, which means that our world ended, because now we sped up time to where, you know, the bifurcation point is going to happen in the singularity for us. So what if with dreams, I've been asking the same question. When you dream, because some people say they don't dream, that's not true. If you don't remember your dream, that means you I tell people you're probably smoking too much damn dope or something like that.
Yeah,
Because
I've
I
always
know,
wondered about that, man. I think people just don't remember them. I don't know how what you just go into a realm of blackness.
right,
I mean,
right.
what does
I
that look like? Not dreaming, you know?
can't explain it. I can't, but I've had many consultations where they said something like that. Yeah, it's
Okay.
like black. Like I don't remember nothing.
Hmm.
But the point is that my dreams, I be dreaming about things that I know didn't happen in this lifetime. I know it didn't happen, but it feels so real, like it did happen. And other people have been saying the same thing. Like I've dreamed about something I know in my whole timeline of being who I am. This place doesn't exist, but the dream felt very real. Could it be that that cold spot was an indication that it opened our conscious field to the conscious field of our multiverse parallel reality versions of ourselves? Could we be watching our parallel versions of ourselves in other realities, like through a TV stream, but through their first person perspective? I don't know, bro. I think the physicists need to get on it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's, we talked about the Third Reich
Hmm.
earlier and the Germans and stuff. And this kind of reminds me of this TV show that I watched. It's called Man in the High Castle.
Hmm.
It
Not
was
familiar.
Philip K. Dick. It was based
Oh,
off
Philip
of,
K. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
That's why I
it
touched.
was out there, right? But that was at the end, you realize that the Germans had, it looked like CERN actually. They had some big device underground and they
Mm.
were opening up portals and they were trying to go back and what were they? Sorry, it's been a couple years, guys. I'm trying to remember how this went, but they were going through the portal and they were trying to go back and manipulate the ending of the war somehow.
Oh,
Because the
yeah, yeah,
Germans
yeah, yeah.
throughout the series, because it was a show throughout the series, the Germans had it was based off a world where they won. So the
Yeah.
United States, half of the U.S. was ran by the Japanese, the other half was ran by Nazi Germany.
Hmm.
So somebody was trying to
Interesting.
go in through a portal and fix the outcome of the war the war somehow. But there's all this extra dimensional stuff in there like this, like the idea that yeah, you and I somewhere else are not having this conversation. We're doing something else. We're living a different life to where we don't even podcast.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the uptick of multiverse movies and TV series. In the last 5 years, you had Multiverse Madness with Marvel. They
Yep.
brought in Kang the Conqueror. You know, you got all of this stuff on Loki.
Yep.
You got these other TV shows. It was one show I was speaking about. What's the name of that show? I can't even remember the name of it, but I was bringing it up ad hoc about how everything I'm saying about even the new comic series, Invincible. I don't know if you read comics, but
I
they
love
have
comics.
Invincible out, yeah, on Amazon Prime. And there's this guy named Angstrom Levy or something like that. But he's bringing all of these other multiverse versions of himself to fight the other guy. So I'm just saying
Yeah.
the multiverse is popping up in TV series a lot, and it's for a reason. It's because these people, I think, have broken some type of fifth wall, and they are probably spying on other parallel realities. I don't know. Project
Yeah.
Looking Glass. I don't know.
Yeah, there's another show that deals with that, and I'm blanking on the name of it, but like basically they put on a headset. This guy got a video game, and it was a rollout of a new type of tech, and you put on a headset, and he's able to go into another dimension. It does
Mhm.
something to our brain and allows that doorway to open. You go into another dimension, into the future and stuff like that. But we know that or at least I think they show us stuff in the movies that's about to happen. Like we're talking about UFOs earlier. Roswell, Kenneth Arnold,
Mhm.
even Van Tassel, who built the Integratron, that all comes out in 1947. It seems like 1947 was like the official rollout of like the idea that there might be aliens, UFOs, and we might not be alone. And I think that because that happened, then you get movies like Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
further tells people, okay, this is what we're like Spielberg may have been involved with getting the public ready for disclosure with that movie.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
And think about like 2001 Space Odyssey. They had an AI in that show or that movie. There was an AI on the spaceship that was talking to the
Is it
guy.
Hal?
I
Hal
think
or something?
so. Yeah, I think it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it went rogue. It's like, but that was in this. I think that came out in like '69, maybe. So it's like,
Mhm.
who's thinking about AI in the '70s? Nobody, but
Right.
Hollywood is.
Right. Right. It makes you question, like, how do they have access? I was trying to look. I know what show you were talking about. I was trying to look, have some notes on it. But it makes you question, have they already tapped into it? And remember when all of those little, what do you call it, started popping up everywhere around the world? The little thing that
The
looked like
obelisks.
it looked like obelisks or something. They started
Yeah,
started popping up everywhere, and it looked just like the one from 2000
yeah.
Space Odyssey. It was very similar, that could be a marking right there, or they do these type of ritualistic things to unveil, like, look at what we're doing. And people are like, why are they doing that? Why are they placing that right there? That is a ritual working, of what they're doing to show us that we've done it. We have um entered into some type of understanding of the physics where you can reflect back on that movie, and it's exactly like that, or maybe it's not exactly like that, but it's comparable. you
Man,
know
you remember Hackers? Did you ever watch that movie Hackers?
Hackers. No, I don't think I've seen
It
that.
had Angelina Jolie in it. She wasn't huge yet, I don't think. She was kind of coming up. It had, well, I don't remember all the other guys, but basically they rolled out this idea of the internet way before most people had a computer in their house. Because I think most people got their computer around 97, 96. And I
Right.
think this movie came out way before that, but it's showcasing people talking on the internet, people like AIM type stuff, like right, like people connecting and people hacking each other. It was like weirdly just it was just maybe even 6 months too soon, just a hair
Wow.
too soon. But um, I see it. I mean, there's so many movies that do that. They roll it out. It seems like.
Yeah, because I tell people it's called cinemamancy. I think TV shows and movies are a observation of a magical right that we've never seen before, and we underplay it. We think it's just entertainment. We think we're just watching something just to see it. I think that the Black Lodge are very much involved. The cabal is involved in funding and telling producers what exactly, because I've seen certain TV shows and movies, and I'm very, very in depth with understanding the symbolism of Kabbalah and gematria. I've seen them put coded numbers all through this stuff. And I'm like, there's no way a common producer or a director knows what those numbers mean. There's no way. Somebody's on the phone and saying, hey, there was just at 22 minutes of the movie, they slip a message in. And if you understand Kabbalah and Gematria, uh, you'll be able to encode and see a third and fourth layer of the movie that otherwise people would never get.
Yeah, it's encoded, and it seems like it's too advanced sometimes. It's like I had this conversation with the people, the guys on the Nephilim Death Squad show. Like some of this stuff, like when you look at the numerology behind like Las Vegas, for instance, it's almost too advanced for it to be a human. It's almost like there's some sort of a dark force that's not human, kind of orchestrating it. But I wanted to hit you up with this because I found
Mhm.
this the other day, and this is in Eliphas Levi's book.
Okay.
And it just reminded me of what your breakdown just there. He goes, behind the veil of all mystical allegories of the ancient doctrines, behind the darkness and strange ordeals of all initiations, under the seal of all sacred writing, in the ruins of Nineveh or Nivea, on the crumbling stones of old temples, or the blackening visage of the Assyrian or Egyptian Sphinx, in the cryptic emblems of our own books on alchemy, in the ceremonies practiced at reception in all secret societies, there are found indications of a doctrine which is everywhere the same and everywhere concealed.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. And
He's talking about like this common thread.
yeah. And it's the unveiling of it.
Mm.
Have
Yeah,
you
yeah.
noticed in the last 7 years, it's just getting more and more things are being unveiled, or more things are in the open plain. With a text like, if you understood, a text like that, what
Hmm.
he's saying, and you looked, if he was able to look into the future and see this thing, it would be like wide open for a magician. Like, what is,
He had a device. His he was a protege of this guy. He was learning under this guy, and he was passed down this some sort of a device. It used numbers and to somehow predict the future.
was the I Ching?
I don't remember what it's called, man.
Uh,
It but it reminded me of this you I think you brought up the drones earlier. Do
yeah,
you remember there was this guy in the conspiracy community that came out and he's got some sort of a numeric device that he uses to predict the future, and he predicted the whole drone thing almost.
I think I heard. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember that.
That's what Elvis Levi had, some sort of a more arcane version of that, where they're
Mm.
using numbers to like divinate the future. It's
It
wild.
is. That's gematria. Simply gematria. Um, Numbers. The people who created numbers were the Chaldeans.
Mm.
It comes from the Chaldean civilization. The Egyptians adapted it and changed it a little bit. But what the Chaldeans were looking at, to everyone's surprise, people don't even look into this. They would study the cycle of the stars. They would count the stars, and they realized that there is a vibration to the cymatics of the star fields. So they were developing a system to study the cyclical vibrational pattern of the stars, and they started to put symbols to the capacity of how strong and how lessened the vibration was of what they were seeing. So the stronger they would give it a symbol, the less they would give it another symbol. These later becomes numbers. They become the number system. Numbers are nothing but symbols, and they're symbols of a vibrational output. It's only 1 through 9 numbers, really. Everything else is a replica of that. But if you reduce them down, it goes back from 1 through 9. So the Egyptians figured that out. They did the same thing. They looked at the stars. Everything was always about the stars. You know, something about the stars is equatable to the nature of the simulation that we're in. And the numbers tell the story. The numbers are the language of the simulation system, coded down to the fabric of the codons in our DNA, relatable to the star fields and the vibrational spin cycle, the nature of the spin cycle. So gematria is a language of understanding the patterns of numbers as it relates to metaphysics, esotericism, and to astronomy, all of these other different studies. And if you get good at recognizing the patterns, you can actually predict things, because now you understand a pattern and you know when a certain event is, and that becomes astrological, because astrology also connects to the system of numbers, like the revolution of Mercury around the sun is what, every 72 days? What was it? I can't remember, but every revolution around the sun has a number to it, and comparative to Earth. So now these numbers are encoding the revolution of what it takes, how the planets come in contact with us at different times, in conjunction with the sun or not in conjunction with the sun. And then there's other conjunction with other planets. Then there's conjunctions with constellations and planets. So they started to look at all of this stuff, and they found it from a quantum, the smallest area to the biggest area, of how numbers fit into this system. And it's like an alien language.
There's a guy I've had on, and his research suggests that this is some sort of a simulation, and that we are encoded by, like, our makeup, if you break it down far enough, is like numbers. Like, he goes into like 369, like Tesla's thing, but he goes beyond that. It's like it's hard to articulate, because it's just a super dense concept. But like, if you think about it, what we're told, how all this works, how the computer, how you and I are able to talk right now.
Mhm.
We're recording this. When we're done, it's going to be a file. I can send the file to you. I can send it to YouTube. The way all that works apparently is numbers. It's zeros and ones. Apparently,
Yep.
there's an 8 binary sequence of zeros and ones that form a byte,
Yep.
and that's how we're able to do this. Beyond that, I don't know how. Beyond that, it's like this is magic. But apparently,
Mhm.
it's just zeros and ones, and
Or
we figured
zeros
out a
and
way
ones.
to utilize that. I always think about what Sam Tripoli says. It's like hardwired mysticism. Technology is hardwired mysticism, but it goes
Yeah.
back to these numbers. That just blows my mind.
Yeah. We call it techno-Gnosticism.
Mm, I like that.
And I mean, a zero, think about it, is actually the woman's
Hmm.
private,
Hmm.
and the one is the males. So we're
Hmm.
talking about the masculine and the feminine with the zeros and ones, and how to fit the masculine and the feminine in certain patterns and equations begets this, a portal for us to communicate to each other. Or it becomes bytes, and then bytes become something bigger, and whatever that is becomes something else bigger. And then when it frames together, you connect the right circuitry, the electrical, magnetic, the metal, and all of that. You get this, you know.
Hmm.
But it starts with the numbers and encoding the numbers. So very, very quintessential, and is something that I try to stress to people to study, because I found the system of how the secret societies have been using numbers for a while on the mainstream. They use it on us. I mean, it's also encoded, like what Alan H. Greenfield says, magically, the secret chiefs in the Black Lodge. There's a numerical sequence to alien visits, or naming the different entities that visit the planet over certain ley lines. is determined through gematria. The visitation period is a, you ever seen the show, um, what's the show with the Black Lodge and the Twin Peaks? You
Yeah,
ever seen
yeah.
Twin Peaks? You notice that it only the forest only open during a Saturn and Jupiter conjunction. That's only when you're able to enter the White Lodge and the Black Lodge. Same thing. That's a ley line area where that forest was. Why did it happen only in the forest? You know, that's a ley
Hmm.
line, what we were talking about earlier, why they marked that area for CERN. These things were studied by the ancients, and they didn't have nothing to do like us to worry about, you know, all of this stuff that we worry about. They were more focused in studying the mysticism. And I think we would solve a lot of our problems if we didn't have all of these distractions. If we could study it on a regular basis, we would have been cracked the code with the
Yeah.
technology we have.
I think the pyramids too. I mean, there's a good argument that those were sitting on ley lines and they were somehow connected.
Yeah,
That would mean a lot of the ancient civilizations were connected to each other via, I don't know, some sort of an energy field.
yeah,
It's like the they put them on the ley lines and but the pyramids themselves had a way of communicating with each other
yeah,
for vast distances.
yeah. It's called Templarism. There's a guy that wrote a book on that. He wrote the book, Gaia Matrix. The Gaia Matrix. I forgot his name.
Oh,
Peter
I've had him
Shampoo.
on. Yeah, I've had
Peter
him on.
Shampoo. Oh,
Yeah,
okay, okay,
Peter
yeah,
Shampoo. Yeah. Hmm.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, yeah. He called it. He was talking about a pyramid grid.
Hmm. He I studied all of his books on it.
Hmm.
He calls it Templarism and why they build these things according to a grid. And the grid is also based on certain things in the sky. You know, how they input the grid because they notice if you flew above where the Pyramid of Giza was, that same arrangement of pyramids is the same arrangement of pieces of the motherboard chip in every computer.
Yep, yep,
That's crazy,
yep.
you know?
That's what
So,
I was thinking about a minute ago. Was those chips
mhm,
that's like facilitating all this? They're like the brain or something. But people compare the chips to sigils. They look like sigils,
they are.
and they
Our
seem to
emoji,
do the
mhm.
same kind of a purpose.
Yeah, our emojis are sigils. I don't know if you guys ever looked into that. Look into an article on emojis being the King Solomon goated demon sigils. It's proven. The first 72 emojis are the 72 sigils of the Goetia. So
It's
yeah, yeah. I've showed it on
okay.
my Instagram. Like I put the first ones, you know, comparative right next to this. Bro, it's just plain as day, that's what it is.
Hmm.
But
Well,
yeah,
you've
with
got
chip. Mhm.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just saying with the chips, with the sigils, how lines connect, the sacred geometry of it all. It also is vortex physics, how to open up certain portholes to energies and frequencies. If you know how to draw certain lines, even in voodoo practice, they draw these lines, and that's how these spirits can come in. Um, that's the same thing of what's happening. Did you know that first computer was actually designed to talk with Satan?
I've heard
Have you heard
that.
heard that before?
I've heard that. I don't know the details, but yeah, I
Or to
mean,
disprove to disprove the church or something. It was like it was just to either disprove or do something, but it was actually designed to speak to Satan or speak to a demon.
I'm telling you, I mean, there's something to that. That like I told you, I looked into this CERN thing. I was doing a project on that, and I came across this guy on YouTube, Gordy Rose. He's
Oh, Gordy Rose, yeah, I know him.
I mean, I love this guy because it's like he lets stuff slip, man. Like he says stuff that like,
Yeah,
Elon Musk wouldn't say or Zuckerberg wouldn't say. He lets things slip. But he's talking about how, speaking of those monoliths or obelisks,
hmm,
he was talking about how because he's the founder of Kindred AI and
yeah.
the D-Wave computer.
D Wave. I was trying to think
D-Wave,
like, what
that's
is a
it.
D Wave? I was big on his D Wave.
He's
research.
talking
Yeah.
about how his computers look like black monoliths, like the one from
Yes.
2001 Space Odyssey. But all that is an encasing to create an environment that is
Hmm.
conducive to the chip. It's all about keeping that chip in a position of superpower. Like they keep it super cold in there so it can
Yeah.
function. And he's talking about how with those D-Wave computers, they're sending a signal into another dimension
Hmm.
where it interacts with the shadow, and then we get some sort of information back from the shadow that it interacts with. He says that on YouTube. I'm not making that up. Then he goes on further to say what we're dealing with is akin to the Lovecraftian old ones.
Yes, it is. And
There, so
that's
it's when he said shadow, I think he was talking about some type of entity because he goes on to say, they're not good, they're not bad, they're not demons. There's something like the old ones in Lovecraft, like
mm,
a cosmic indifference, like they don't care about us, like we're ants or something. They have
yeah.
they have cosmic indifference towards us, but they're sentient.
Yeah, we're meaningless.
Mm.
It's called cosmicism.
Yes.
That there's something such greater than us. A good show was this came out three body problem. Actually, it was
Hmm.
a physics problem that was solved. Well, no, it wasn't solved actually. But the dark forest theory that there's something out there that is intellectually and technologically superior to us. And if we were to discover it, our act would be to find and develop the research to find a weapon to destroy them before they can destroy us. Dark Forest Theory. Great book to read. Three body, three body problem. But
It's
going back to
very
your point.
it's very similar to Orson Scott Card's book Ender's Game. Ender's
I haven't
Game. It's
heard of
one of
that
my
one.
favorite sci-fi novels of all time. They did a movie on it with Harrison Ford. It was
Mm,
okay. People were hating on it really hard. But you know how these sci-fi movies are. They just can't get them to match up with the books. People
yeah,
say it about Dune and everything else. But it's what you're talking about. It's that that was like the plot of that first Ender's Game book essentially is they're going to destroy this alien horde before they destroy us.
yeah.
But
That's
there,
Dark Forest Theory.
but there's technology involved too, like what we're
Yeah.
talking about.
Yes, technology. It's all about that, you know.
Mhm.
And I mean, in the actual series, they figured out how to shut down all of our CERN machines. Ironically, we're talking about it. They shut down our ability to study the quantum, so
Mhm.
we couldn't advance in 100 years and catch up to, well, they were gonna reach Earth in like 130 years. So we had 100 years behind. We couldn't really study it. So it's crazy. But yeah, but the Lovecraftian mythos, very interesting. A lot of people don't know that Lovecraft developed a lot of his research. He inherited his father's library. And his father was a man who he traveled. He was like a traveling businessman. He contracted tertiary syphilis, and he had this large occult collection from some Arabic grimoires. Was from esoteric information all over the world, but he loved these particular Muslim Arabic like grimoires. And when he was dying, because literally with tertiary syphilis, your pieces of your face start to fall off. Like it's very, very horrific way to die. He will call out to these entities from these grimoires that he collected. They were called the Hayat al Hakim, and he would say Cthulhu, Yog Sothoth. He would call the great old ones. And Lovecraft, being a very young child, he was standing like, "What the hell is wrong with my dad calling out to these things? What are these things?"
Mhm.
So he began to study because he inherited his whole father's collection library, very vast library of books. So he became very, very intelligent. Uh, Unfortunately, after his father passed, the wealth of their family dried up. They became very, very poor. So he grew up to become the father of horror. He experienced a extreme switch in the polarity, going from rich to poor. And he began to write about, well, before he wrote about the Cthulhu mythos, he had a wife. Um, I forgot her name, but his wife was a Jewess. She was a Jewish woman, but she studied apocalyptic Judaism. And she gave him some secrets of the Kabbalah, and the original story of Cthulhu was how the Jewish or the Hebraic priests got the blue robes that later becomes the purple robes the Romans wore. It was a secret. There was this little snail. I forgot the name of the snail, but they call it the Hele Zone. The Hele Zone, that's the myth of it. So you guys look up the Hele Zone. And basically the snail, if you boiled its blood, it would create a dye. It was extremely foul smell, by the way. They even made it in some Jewish marriage contracts that if you married a person that worked in the factories that produce this dye, that the smell was so bad that you could divorce the person. You could smell it from miles. Yeah, that's how bad it was. But this blue
Yeah.
to produce the blue, it needed the sunlight. It needed sunlight over it. If you don't use sunlight, it changes purple. The Romans never got the other secret, so they just wore the purple robes. But
Mhm.
the Hebrew priests wore the blue robes with the little breastplates that you'll see when you look it up.
That's
His
very
wife,
esoteric too. Just the addition of the sunlight changing things.
I'll give you the esoteric secret here. I'll give you guys a secret. The blue is called Teklet, and it's supposed to represent the throne of God because the sky is blue and that the sun is positioned in the sky. So you needed the sun to create the blue. Powerful. And you know
Man.
how purple is the crown chakra and everything. But
Hmm.
anyways, but we get too off course. She gave him that secret. So he kind of formulated the Cthulhu um octopod whole mythos from that snail or that sea creature. And the rest of the Lovecraftian mythos is all Kabbalah. So if you study Kabbalah, which I won't break down the whole Lovecraftian thing, I know we're just talking now. Um, it's talking about creation and destruction. Ironically, you're talking about Georgie Rowe's research of using these interdimensional spaces where these entities are comparable to what these Lovecraftian creatures are. What are they? Pure chaos, chaos beings, you know? So,
Tiamat.
right. So yeah, so they're using these, and it's like they can come anytime and wipe us out, but they don't really care to wipe us out. So it's like y'all do y'all thing, but we discovered the source of it, so we kind of have tapped into these
Hmm.
spaces. And,
That's
they
that's
keep the
what he
chips.
was. That's what
Mhm.
he was explaining. I mean,
Yeah,
that's a hot take on what he was talking about, man. That's
I want to look into
perspective.
more of that. I want to look into that video. I'm gonna look into it after the
I,
interview. That's
yeah,
it.
I'll send. He's got a. I can send it to you. He's got a couple of them, or it's on. He's in a TED Talk like setting,
Oh, okay.
and that's the other weird part about this isn't like a podcast, where you kind of do talk about weird stuff. It's kind of, it's expected and on some podcasts to go there. This is a bunch of tech nerds in a TED
Hmm.
Talk setting where he's breaking all this out. And it's crazy because nobody has told him to shut up. Nobody has dissed him. The establishment lets him say it at this, because usually the establishment will step in and be like they did with Buzz Aldrin or something. They say, "Oh, he's losing his mind" or whatever. They did
Yeah.
that with, they would shut up. If you look at guys like Admiral Byrd,
Yeah.
they barely let him do interviews because they didn't want him to let stuff slip. Jordy, they just keep letting him go. That nobody says anything about it. That's what I love about it because it's like he's telling you
Hmm.
He's telling you what it is and what's happening. And like I'll send it to you. He kind of
Mhm.
finishes that talk by saying, so, he talks about the Lovecraftian entities. He breaks all that down. He's explaining that it's like the old ones. And then he goes, so so I'm hiring right now to see if we can do this.
Yeah,
And he just
that's what it
leaves it at
was.
that. He just
That's
leaves
it.
it at that.
The reason why they haven't shut him up,
Mm,
they're fishing. They're not the hacking term fishing.
sure.
They're um trying to find by giving the research out, they're trying to find someone who can crack another part of the code. So
Yeah.
they're volunteering it. So they hoping somebody catch on to it and get in their basement and find something else so they can bring them in.
Like a CIA program.
That's what it
For
is.
sure. You're absolutely right. That's exactly what they're doing. And because I mean, NASA uses his D-Wave.
Hmm.
CIA, they do use his D-Wave computers, and so does CERN. Those are the big three that I found who are utilizing his technology. This dimensional breaking, or if it's a bridge or whatever you want to call it, it's breaking us into another realm. Those are the
Wow.
CIA is using it. So yeah, they're probably looking for recruits because he said, you
Yeah.
could come talk to me afterwards if you want to get involved with this. Straight up. I'll send it to you.
They say get real desperate with it, Georgie. We need them. We need them now.
And it's crazy because he doesn't. I'll just say this and move on. But like he doesn't correct himself when he says we're trying to do this. He doesn't
Mhm.
say he
Mhm.
doesn't explain what he meant by that. It's like because you would think that he would say something like we're trying to stop this,
Yeah, that's crazy.
especially you know he says we're trying to do this as in contextually what I derive from that is that he's saying we're going to try to work with them. And of course rake in new minds so they can crack new codes. Of course, that's a given. He's sending out the call for that too, man. So, and man, I
Well,
this we can wind down with this. I was totally going to get into like spiritual shade room type stuff with you. I was going to talk about, I want to get into Hollywood and decoding Hollywood, decoding hip hop and all that stuff. I was planning to go there, but we
mhm.
just got on this tangent and I didn't want to stop it. So I never segued
Yeah,
us.
yeah. Let's ride the wave, man. I mean, you guys know what's going on. It's just a bunch of bullshit, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
It's-
We can do it for another time, man. I mean,
yeah,
I just think it's cool that I never got to segue us into that. I was planning on doing a show like that with you, but I always leave room open for this thing to go whichever way it wants to go. So,
that's better because spending so much time talking about these people, like
mhm.
I really believe it's like idol worship because we talk about these people all the time. Like, I do it because I notice that's what they're more attracted to that bull crap. I
Yeah,
wouldn't do it if I didn't see people ask me so many questions about these other people. Like my inbox is full, and then they start to reach out to you, like celebrities start to reach out to you and stuff, and ask you things and everything. I've had Jaguar Wright reach out, speaking about the whole P. Diddy and all of that type stuff.
mhm.
So they see the research and they're like, hey, I think he may be on to something. I think there probably was a sacrifice in my family, or maybe they did use me for this, or maybe, so um yeah, I'll do it with you. I don't mind, but I do love having advanced conversations about what's not being talked about. And I don't think enough people are talking about what we talk about today, or at least they're talking about it, but I think we laid a little bit more sauce into it.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that was probably the conversation that needed to happen. I always try to make sure that uh, I don't force it. I don't force it. I probably did early on when I first started podcasting, but now I just kind of let it go where it goes. But that's interesting. You said that you've had uh celebrities reach out to you because I just came across this podcast the other night where this guy, his name is Isaac, and he does like occult decodes. And Isaac Weishaupt, I think is his name.
Oh, yeah, I know Isaac. I love Isaac Weishaupt. Weishaupt.
Well,
Yeah.
he says, Dave Navarro reached out to him and had him on. Dave Navarro is was in Jane's Addiction and Red Hot Chili Peppers.
I gotta look him up.
So Isaac did some sort of an Illuminati type video on Dave Navarro, kind of centered around Dave's tattoos because Dave has two Crowley tattoos
Oh
on his
yeah, I know what this
elbow.
is. Yes, I know what this is. Okay.
I think he's got a Baphomet on him somewhere and some other, occult type of, symbolism. And so
Hmm.
Isaac did a video about him, I think, being a part of the Illuminati or something like that. So Dave reaches out to him and has him on his show. Dave has a show, Dark Matter Radio or something like that. So I listened to that. And Isaac killed it because he knows what he's talking about. It was cool.
Yes.
It was cool. They were
Yeah.
kind of trolling him a little bit. They were
Hmm.
trying to make everything into a joke, but and of course, Navarro wouldn't come out and say he wouldn't explain his tattoos. He
No.
he would just be
No.
like, so, and Isaac was like, so yeah, I noticed you have the two Crowley tattoos. He's like, yep, I sure do. And then he would never go into it. He wouldn't give you anything. So
You got the Lemic tattoos and Baphomet, and he won't explain it. We had on 607 Unk, this other new guy popping up talking about a lot of conspiracy stuff. And we asked about him saying on several podcasts that he sacrificed his son. And he wouldn't go into it last night. He would not go into it, but he said he will have a sit down with one of the people, a part of our community, Brother Sanchez. He said, I'll have a sit down with you in Dallas and I'll go into it if you want me to.
yeah, if you got time, I mean, I'm not going to keep you here all day because your time is I know it's
No, 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 no. I mean,
precious, but
that's what he said to Brother
oh, I see what you're
Sanchez.
saying. I got you.
Yeah, he
I
said
got
that
you.
if we wanted if when we have the sit down, he'll go into that story if people want a better explanation if he actually did sacrifice his
Okay.
son. But yeah, I have all the time.
Mm,
I cleared my slate at whatever time you're ready. I'm
okay.
here. Whatever.
Well, yeah, that's interesting, man. I mean, I do think at some point I would like to do a show on that, just that type of stuff because it's on people's minds. And I'm with you. I see it as being, I don't know what the word is I'm looking for here. It's shallow. I think it's
Yeah.
shallow for us because that's where I'm at on my spiritual journey personally. I've kind
Right.
of turned my back on Hollywood and idolizing these people. And I used to love Dave Navarro. I used to listen to Jane's Addiction all the time. Now it's kind of shallow to me. It's just
Yes.
I want something deeper. I want something with more connection to to the kind of stuff that we're talking about today. I'm with you on that, but it's like this guy I told you about who told me that story at work. He's
Mhm.
not
Yeah.
he doesn't listen to conspiracy podcasts. He's more like a regular dude. He's not a normie. I'm not gonna call him that. Because he's thinking he's kind of waking up to the idea that things aren't as they seem, especially with this Hollywood thing. That
Mm.
we've been sold a giant lie. He's open to that. He came to that conclusion on his own. So he comes
Right.
to me and talks to me about that sort of stuff. He picks my brain.
That's
But
good.
he one of the other things that we talked about, and I love talking to people out in the real world like this because I see where society's head is on things. And a lot of times this Hollywood comes up. Like, for instance, he was asking me about what I thought about the Chris Cornell death and the other guy who was his friend who was in Lincoln Park, Chester. He was asking me about that kind of stuff because he was like, he had heard that those guys were possibly working on some sort of documentary to expose weird stuff happening in Hollywood.
I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that, but I know I was connected to that's a part of the reason why I got my channel deleted as well, not just the Afrocentric stuff, but the I can't say the person's name, but look up who interviewed Isaac Cappy
Yep,
first. You know what I'm talking about?
I do.
All right. So as soon as I started talking about her, that's when a lot of crazy stuff happened, you know. And I brought on one of her co-authors and did it. That was the last interview I did was on his book and her last book, you know. So I think I think that time with the whole QAnon type thing, um, you couldn't talk about that stuff or they'll come after you. They didn't want it. They didn't want it out like that. They want it out now. They want it out. I mean, of course, they're not going to give you the list. People, I'm like, yeah, you guys really thought they were going to give you a list. You guys are so gullible. But speaking about it, they'll allow you to do it now because it's just mainstream. I mean, Trump is talking about it too. I mean, not to that whole degree, but it's definitely a thing, but it's controlled how that information is going to get out because what we think it is because we always attach that A word to it so much is even deeper than the A
Wait, are you
word.
talking about what rhymes with Chrome?
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. We attach that. I mean, it's in a lot of different TV. South Park had an episode about it. It's on a couple of movies. So yeah, that's the thing. But this stuff is like, if you look at the you ever saw the anime Akira?
I haven't seen that.
Very popular anime from like the 80s or something like that, 80s and 90s. But those children in it, what happened to them is some of the secrets to why they needed to have that system, quote unquote, in Hollywood with the children. It's not just for that, it's for using another medium of energy to power some time traveling type right. Yeah.
Hmm. Wow, that's like what, like Illuminati vampire type stuff.
Yeah. They called it was Project Chrononauts. So you guys to look into, and that's what Stranger Things, that's why they waited so much. They wanted to end it off right in Trump's second um term, bringing it, they're going to finish off Stranger Things because that's what it's all about, man.
Do you think that was a rollout, another one of these rollouts where they're exposing people to ideas early
All of it, man,
all day?
is about it. It's completely a magical right, and it's synchronized so perfectly. They have to have a quantum computer infused with beyond an artificial intelligence, literally an entity running this thing, man.
Yeah,
And it's ultra terrestrial how accurate they can get.
that's what what's his name I was talking about. He was a theosophist. I can't believe I'm blanking on his name.
Gurdra?
No, it was I'll think about it in a minute. Uh Dang it, I've got all these other names in my head that I mentioned earlier, like Eliphas Levi and Victor Schauberger. Uh, oh, he's a theosophist, and he brought forward this idea of the eighth sphere, and
I don't even
involved.
know. Is it Timothy? No, not
No, it
Timothy.
wasn't Timothy. It was anyway. He talked about there was an entity involved with it named Ahriman,
Hmm.
and this he died in the in 1923 or 1924. But so before that, he's talking about all this stuff that he's kind of foreseen that to happen, to roll out, and it's technology. He's talking about how these entities way out in space or from another dimension are going to help us move along our technology, right? They're gonna like Roswell, like some people think that was dropped in our laps to help us further our technology. he's talking about how that's going to happen, how they're going to give us little seeds so we can advance, and then they're going to come to Earth and latch onto the technology, and they're going to begin to manipulate us through the technology. And he's talking about how this astral intelligence, an AI, is going to come to Earth, manipulate us through technology, and then become like a almost like an antichrist figure
Is
through.
it Mr. Senate?
No, no.
I see is Mr. Senate. Um, I was just trying to find the guy because I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
Henry Steele Alcott and William Quan Judge. They were connected to the ape sphere. But that's interesting because there's a
yeah.
movie. You ever seen The Arrival?
No.
Man,
Well,
yeah,
wait,
or it's called
maybe.
Arrival or Arrival. Is it
Okay.
Arrival? It's either Arrival or The Arrival, but it was something like that where they came down in these pods and they couldn't uncover the language. They were speaking in some type of language, but it was symbols, and they had to crack that code. But it's very interesting. It goes into the theory that they've been giving us technology or whatnot, or maybe it is synonymous with what quantum computing
Mhm.
is connected to that extraterrestrial type stuff as well.
Yeah. This is going to drive me crazy. That's what he was saying, and he was saying it at the turn of the century.
Mhm.
Uh,
He was right. Well,
yeah.
I don't know if it's extraterrestrial. I
Rudolf
think.
Steiner.
Oh, Steiner. Oh,
I know. I knew you would know exactly who it was.
oh my God.
I
Yeah.
can't believe I blanked on his name, man. I've read a good chunk of his work actually.
Me
It's
too. Me too. He was Hitler. I think I was supposed to say that, but he was big into Steiner, and he predicted the drones too. He said it was going to be spiders in the sky, though.
yeah, that's what they look like with
That's what they look like.
it's crazy.
So he was dead on, and I think they have tapped into this eighth sphere thing, and next is to conquer other parallel. It's like what's the little character from Marvel? Not Galactic. Maybe it's from DC. Um, the one that Superman is always battling. Can't remember his name right now, but maybe they're trying to do something like that. Use the technology and colonize other realities. I don't know what's going
Yeah,
on.
yeah. I mean, all of that. It seems like everything that we've seen in our lifetimes shown to us in film is
Mhm.
possible now.
Yeah,
And not only that,
yeah.
it seems to be happening. That's why I'm so big on this idea of them seeding ideas to us in film to sort of prep us for the next change that's coming. And I don't know if that's exactly what they're doing. All I know is
Mhm.
that I'm seeing stuff in movies come to life 10 years later after the movie.
Right.
There's a little window there with a lot of these. You see the movie, 10 years later, boom, it's real. It's a
Not even 10
reality.
years. I mean, look at damn, what's the damn movie? Leave the World Behind.
It's getting
We're talking
smaller though.
about
That window's getting
crashing,
smaller.
right? But we're talking about crashing planes.
Yep, yep.
A year ago, they were on crashing planes. They were talking about uh a blackout. They had a blackout in it. They had I mean, the main thing is the crashing planes. They just had it in,
Oh, they had that yeah, Leave the World Behind featured yeah, like you're saying, it's a blackout, like the what would we call like the grid going down.
yeah, a cyber attack.
Cyber attack, yeah.
That's what happened yesterday on X.
I
I
didn't
was
hear
on
about that.
X. Yeah, yeah, it was a big cyber attack on the X yesterday because reason why I know it was the first day of NFL free agency. So everybody that's into the NFL, they were trying to see who their team was going to get it, what we're going to get or pick up or sign. And Elon Musk made an announcement that we were under a cyber attack
Hmm.
on X and nobody could reload their Twitter. Like my Twitter was tripping. I couldn't refresh for about 4 hours. So It was messed up. So that was in Leave the World Behind. It had the bunkers in it. All the movies that came out with the bunkers. You had
Obama
Simon.
produced it or partly produced it too, right?
Yeah, he was,
Yeah.
yeah, and he has the Higher Ground films that shows the steps of Freemasonry on the
Hmm.
thing. But
You had that ship in Leave the World Behind was the White Lion.
White Lion,
And I
and
looked
then
into that, and that goes back to what I found on that was Queen Numbi in Africa. They had an idea of a white lion being sent from heaven, like
yeah,
a an entity that came from the space comes to Earth, and that's the form it takes. It becomes the white lion or something like that.
it's in Judaic systems too. Like when you have a mutation, a white mutation, like they've been waiting on
Exactly.
the white heifer or the red heifer or the white heifer or the white deer or all of these different things. But the white lion, they did do that. Then they came out with Lion King and they had a white lion in it. They put the white lion, and that came out around the same time Leave the World came out. So Leave the World Behind came out in the same time frame this 2024 and 2023.
You're
It had the
right
white
about the
lion.
mutation thing too, because it's like a the white line. You could see it as a symbol of DNA changing, like transhumanism, this kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's about a magical mutation. Is
Yes.
how they present it. But even it's tied to Trump too. Well, one, they killed the guy origin. Well, I mean, allegedly, the guy who played the voice of Mufasa from the first Lion King. He died, James Earl Jones, and he was the voice of Darth Vader too.
Hmm.
He dies, so he was the Lion King technically. He was in Coming to America. He had the little lion sash on in Coming to
Hmm.
America. He dies, and then the Lion King comes out, is announced to come out 2 months later. I was like, you don't think that's suspicious that the guy who was the voice of Mufasa dies and Lion King comes out? And the thing about it, astrologically, in Vedic astrology, there's these things called nakshatras, which are lunar mansions. The election was around the time frame called Maga, which is a Vedic nakshatra. It has nothing to do with MAGA. It's called Maga, and Maga is the lion. It's a lion. The zodiac animal is a lion connected to Leo, but it's also a throne. So him and Kamala was battling for the throne, and he came on top of it. And then they showed the picture of what's the guy that killed the healthcare person, Luigi.
Luigi.
He had a Lion King McDonald's Happy Meal
Yeah.
on a picture with Simba on it.
Hmm.
Then they showed Barron Trump with the same Simba, symbolizing the lion, because I really believe this thing is all about Barron. It's not about Trump. It's about the future of Barron, because Barron is some type of moon child, I believe, because you have
Hmm.
a book written by him. They think he time traveled or something like that. But I think he's a moon child, and he may become president one day, or he may become, I don't know, something real big to the world.
I can see that. I can see that because, and I'm not one for dates or date setting and all
Yeah,
that, but
me either.
I'll I'll just say it like this: the more legitimate theories that I've heard that include a future date, they all seem to kind of surround anywhere from 2026 to 2040.
Mm, mm.
Something happening in that window.
Definitely, definitely.
And that would
A
mean,
major shift.
by the time we get into 2026 and then beyond, that's when you would see somebody like Barron Trump taking office or whatever.
Yeah, start to centralize them into a role
Mm-hmm.
and set them up to do something significant. We got to look at these dates because 2030 is when Agenda 2030 begins with the whole transhumanist type thing.
Yep.
So we got to keep our eyes out for that because, I mean, Elon Musk, he has a lot of power right now. Shoot, he could centralize, he can talk Trump into centralizing mandatory nano chips or something. I don't know.
I know,
I
man.
don't know. I
That's
mean, I'm not going to say that that's possible or not possible. I'm not trying to speak that, but he um he is very, very um focused upon pushing this Neuralink thing, and it's supposed to help people, but I think that there's going to be some negatives to it.
mhm. Yeah, it just opens us up to all sorts of possibilities that get into the realm of 1984 type stuff. Big brother, people too much control. The tentacles getting longer, government tentacles growing and growing and growing and creeping into our lives even more than they have, which is it's almost impossible to think that they could get more involved in our personal lives. But that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about like them being able to access us, access our heads
Mhm.
essentially through a chip. I think, I mean, people have been kind of getting, I've had some people say they canceled their subscription to my channel because I had somebody on who was kind of, he wasn't all for Trump. I'll just put it like that. He wasn't, I didn't think he went super hard or super disrespectful, but he was questioning Trump. And so I get that people are fired up about this. They're happy about a lot of this change and stuff, but now's the time to be vigilant. We've got to
Mhm.
make sure especially with this Elon Neuralink stuff. I don't care what you think about Trump. Keep your eye on that
Mhm.
because they're if we're not ready to say no to these changes, they're just going to make changes. We're going to wake up enveloped in a psyop, even more so than we already are.
Elon Musk's son, whose name is XAE something, like some weird computer name,
Yeah,
said that Elon is the president.
yeah.
He said that,
The kids, that's a kid for you. They
you
don't
know?
lie. They tell you how they see it.
Yeah, and I'm not saying if that's true or not, but these things, there's actually there's actual synthezoids, people who are already chipped, whether you believe it's the whole jab thing or is literal. This thing has already happened. You think they're going to unroll some technology and they haven't tested it. There's a lot of people that we don't understand that are human 2.0. There's a book called Geoengineered Transhumanism. Elena Freeland wrote it. She has all the military documents on it. She doesn't even do interviews no more because I think they've censored her, but I would tell everyone to get her books. So we're literally moving into the Terminator phase, not the actual metal skeleton, but something probably a little bit more advanced than that. I interviewed Sophia Stewart. She's arguably the creator of The Matrix because the Wachowski twins never presented a book to us. And every movie has a book. People don't understand how movies are made. You got to have a book to have a movie. The strip is based on the book. She had a book called The Third Eye in the 1980s. And she's saying that the Terminator is part one of the Matrix, that James Conner is supposed to be Jesus Christ, and he time traveled, and Neo is another form of Jesus Christ or James Conner. They're comparative to the same character, and they just split her book in half and separated the time travel aspect between James Conner to become a Neo. They just, blew that all up or whatever. So
Wow.
she's, yeah, yeah. So she's been talking, and she won the court case, supposedly. Some people say, she didn't. They got videos out on her, but she showed me the document. So I've seen the actual documents that she won that court case. And they have to pay liens to her, pay her liens off for lifetime payments from the Matrix film.
Oh
But
wow.
anyway,
So it's legit like that.
I have the emails. She won this
Wow.
court case. Now, how she's paid, hey, people can say whatever they want to say. If you challenge that, fine. I don't really care if you do or if you think, but I've seen it with my own eyes. I have it on file. Now, how she's paid, I don't know, but she lives damn luxuriously when she calls
Mm.
me. She calls me all the time.
Sophia.
Her name is Sophia Stewart. I interviewed her twice, the original creator. They've been calling her the mother of the Matrix for a minute. Some people say it's a hoax that she wrote it. Some people really believe her. She's been on big platforms. I think they just had her. They had her on some big platform. Was it Complex? I think Complex interviewed her. But going back to my point, she was saying that this synthezoid thing is real, and um maybe Elon Musk is here to speed the process up. Have you seen the TV series Severance?
Mm-mm. No.
Yeah, you got to watch this one, Tim.
Okay. All right.
You guys got to watch this one.
Severance.
I think Adam Scott is the actor.
Okay.
Severance is the biggest TV series that I want people to watch. It's on Apple TV. It's like on the second season, like 6 episodes right now, but it's about getting a chip in your head in modern times right now. And what when you get this chip, you're able to fractalize your life in half, whereas you go work for this company and you can't remember anything that you do. So it's like splitting your mind in half. You create another version of yourself working for this company, and when you clock out, the chip cuts off, and now you're back as Tim again by the time the elevator reaches the bottom floor and you walk out. The reason why they do it,
Hemispheres.
yeah,
But
yeah.
but go on.
The reason why they do it is because of trauma. So if I want to forget 8 hours of my day, I'll just get chipped. And you got people protesting the chips. People coming out, oh, this stuff is evil technology. And, throughout the TV series, where these people who are traumatized or dealing with their trauma, plus the company is cutting a fat check for you to get the chip. And some people can't find jobs. But this guy, he's figuring out how to reintegrate himself inside of the job and outside of the job. So they're called an innie and an outie. And this television series, very Gnostic. It has the black goo in it. And it is probably telling us what's going on with some of these celebrities. You ever seen celebrities glitch before? Or
Yeah.
politicians?
Yep.
Watch the series. You know how they can have many personalities?
The one that comes to mind is Katy Perry with that serious eye glitch or whatever that was. But there's more.
Yeah,
There's others that are
yeah, yeah. Katy
strange.
Perry was Wendy Williams was wearing the Statue of Liberty and this fell out randomly on this random day, but she had the Statue of Liberty. They said it represented the fall of Babylon. But
Well, that's technology that, like I'm saying, I see this entertainment as a rollout. What you just laid out there in Severance, we're going to be able to see that in within the next 10 years, probably the ability to do that.
yeah, I mean, I don't, it's not, it's here.
You're
It's here.
right. It's here, but
It's, yeah,
it's
it's
just
still on the ground. Yeah.
yeah, it's like they're still working on it, but it is a reality. We don't know, like you said, we don't know how far off they are. They may have been developing that since the 80s or something. So we don't know how advanced it is.
Get the book Geoengineered Transhumanism. She's saying they've been preparing the soul for transhumanism for like 50, 60 years. And we've been falling into it the whole time. She thinks that there's not nanoparticles, that it's not, has nothing to do with making us, or it could make us sick, the chemtrails, but it's about us inhaling nanoparticles constantly to change our inside to so our soul can adjust to this whole transhumanist. She got it from a cult perspective to a scientific perspective. She's broken all. She goes into Richard Feynman, the father of nanotech. She goes deep into military documents, man. DARPA.
Nice.
She has so much DARPA um archives. I don't even know how she got all that stuff. Like, I'm like, how do
Yeah,
you?
you have an episode with her up?
No, I don't have it. I might reach out to her. She has her email. I might reach out to her, but she has videos out. You can look her up, Elena Freeland.
Okay.
She has you can watch interviews. She's deep as hell. Matter of fact, I think one of her teachers is Michael, what is his name? He wrote the book Twilight Language.
Okay.
Michael Holloman, Michael Hoffman. He has interviews too. Michael Hoffman wrote the book Twilight Language. That's someone that she looks up to.
Well, it's like, and I'm gonna try to remember to do this. I'm gonna send you that Gordy Rose or Jordy, however you say his name.
Yeah.
I'm gonna send you that particular talk he does. But at the end
Yes.
of it, he took like he's talking to a bunch of tech guys, right? So he took two or three questions at the end of it.
Hmm.
Um, and one of the questions, the guy was like, "How do we stop this situation from becoming the Terminator in real life?" I just
I'm sorry. I was now. Did he laugh? Because I would have just.
no, I think he didn't laugh. He was pretty much just, stone faced, man.
He probably got a chip in him.
So that's
Um,
what we're talking about, man. Like that's what I like about talking to people at work and stuff like that. You get the same sense that you get from that guy in the audience. It's like, this is what people are thinking about right now. This is what's on people's minds. It's, we're going real deep into it,
yeah.
but but that doesn't mean, people aren't thinking it.
Yeah, we're thinking it. We're hip. I think we're
Mhm.
hip. I mean, enough people, they're on a serious mind control. They really believe that.
Most people won't look into it like we do. That's probably what I was trying to say there.
Well, they don't think it garners. They'll say, it's not making me no money, dude.
Hmm.
Why would I
Hmm.
do? You guys are looking at stuff. How can it help my life or something right now?
Hmm.
And I'm like, bro, like this is some real serious times we in. I don't think we've seen a development how we've seen it like that or how it is right now. We haven't seen these things before. They're releasing articles about they got this new AI like in brain tissue or something. They got all types of stuff out right now. And now you got Elon Musk like right at the head of the this is crazy, bro. Like it's literally you've seen the movie Iron Man. Elon Musk is Iron Man. Think about it. He's the richest guy in the world. He's a technocrat,
To the
but he's
core. To the
but,
core.
but is he what's the guy name who played Iron Man? Um
Uh, Rob.
Robert Downey.
Yeah, yeah.
Is he the form of Robert Downey that's Iron Man? Or is he Doctor Doom, the new Doctor Doom one now? Because, you know, um, I don't know, Neuralink, bro. I mean, I don't trust it. So
Mm-mm. No, yeah. He's definitely got this. It's like a Bruce Wayne kind of a thing. It's like,
yeah,
he's the richest guy, and he has this. It's like the idea that he has this double life.
yeah,
And
yeah.
when the sun goes down, he's out fighting crime or whatever. But who knows what Elon's doing when the sun goes down? He might be in a basement somewhere, monitoring like cyber humanoids with seeing how the chip it runs in a model, an AI model or something. Who knows what's happening?
Yeah,
It,
we didn't even get got the military. This one point on the give the dang robot dogs. You got the robot dogs, and then you got the autonomous cars. You got autonomous cars. They're about to come out with a movie. I can't remember the name of the movie. I have to look it up, but they have a movie coming out this year where a guy gets locked into an autonomous car, and the car like has an AI system and like is trying to kill him in the car, like literally.
2001 Space Odyssey. The AI goes
Well,
rogue.
yeah,
Wow,
learning.
man. This has been a great conversation, man.
Yeah, this is great, man.
Mhm.
Yeah, we can go deeper or we can do something, set up something
Okay.
every other month. I enjoyed it. I think this is one of the more thought-provoking conversations I've had on these topics, especially this year. So it's good that we have someone like yourself that has an open mind and don't mind going into those areas. Some people would try to stick on one subject matter, but it's good that we could do this today.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's good, man. And I appreciate you coming on and just giving me this much time, man. We really got deep into some stuff, and we'll do it again and tell everyone where they can find you.
You guys can come over to YouTube. I'm Ani Osaru. on YouTube, or come to my Patreon. We get deep in Patreon. So you got to be ready for that. Patreon.com/THE_Spiritual Shade Room. And I'm on Instagram, the Spiritual Shade Room 1. Yeah.
All right. As always, break the mold, conquer the realm, and thanks for listening.